What's up, YouTube fans? Today we'll be taking a look at the Collection Space Starscream, or their version of a lady Starscream. So this was sent to me by Augie G. Thanks for allowing to take a look at your copy. And I hadn't looked at anything from this company yet. They did a Bumblebee, or a lady Bumblebee, and then they did a lady Cliff Jumper, and now they've done this. So I was interested in looking at this figure for sure. So thanks to him. It does take a little bit of configuration out of box. You do have to attach the backpack. That is a single peg here on the back. Just show you. Slot on the back and this peg. Also, these... Now she's unbalanced, but these null rays plug in right here. And you can kind of configure those however you want. This is how I have them, but you take that and we can plug that in. And now she is complete with her wings. And it's got some beautiful paint on this figure. You got gunmetal for the head, gray for the face, metallic red for the eyes, metallic red for the body and the waist. More of that gray paint, red stripes on the wings, blue paint, white paint, tampo details, accents kind of all over, little accents. It is pretty much 100% painted. Yes, it does have silicone parts. So she's got silicone right here on the chest, as well as back here. I find it really silly. I don't know why they do this. Let's go over the articulation. The head is on a neck joint and a ball joint. So it goes forward and backward on the head itself. The neck itself can bend down so you can get the head way down, way back, side to side, and rotates around. We also get movement at the shoulders here. It's on a butterfly joint, so you get forward and backward. Rotates around on a ball joint, out to the side. The hinge itself can go up and down. There's a lot of movement here at the shoulder. Shoulder pad itself on its own hinge, so everything can get out of the way. Rotation here at the bicep. Double joint elbow, full bend. Really well articulated. Wrists are on a ball joint. The hands are swappable. So there's no articulation in the fingers, but you can swap out the hands. For the waist, you have a ball joint here, so it goes side to side, forward and backward, and it can rotate there. I found it odd that there's nothing down here at the lower waist. There is a crunch down there, but I was hoping for a rotation, but you can see there's a crunch, there's a hinge there. So combining the two, you can get it way down. But the rotation at the top is not that much. You only get up to there before it kind of gets stopped. Not my figure, so I'm not going to push it, but I feel like, I guess you can get a little bit more. You got to just have it at the right angle to get it past there. So my mistake. You can get it past that point. You just got to be careful with scratching the paint. Coming down to the hips. She is pretty wide-hipped. So some poses it does look a little funny, but legs can kick up to there. If you pull it out on this hinge here, there's a drop down hinge that will let you get the legs in any position pretty much. You get all the way up, all the way back. There's a hinge out here as well. So you can get some really crazy poses, but it does end up looking a little bit wide on the hips just because of that joint. Rotation at the hip around that universal, although it's an interesting joint the way they did it. It's got a lot of hinges in there. You have a double joint knee with a separate knee pad. Gets you the full bend. There is a little blade here in the back of the calf, but that does fit into a little slot right there. Just as it bends over, it does fit in there. And it will push up on this hip piece, which I found was interesting. So I'll do that again. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if that's on purpose. It's part of the transformation, but it does kind of do that as you articulate it, manipulate it. This is one issue. Her silicone butt pads do tend to come off. They fall off pretty easily. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I'd rather have just not had it than have it fall off. For the legs or the feet, you have rotation. It's a double peg. So you have forward and backward. You have rotation. You have side to side. You have heel tilt. We do get a bunch of accessories for her. We get this shield done in the same gray with blue and silver accents. There's a peg down here. A little tight, so I'm just going to use a spudger. And you can bend out this handle. And she can hold this in her hand. Let's get it pegged in there. Oops. There we go. And now you have this look. I don't know. I'm not sure I love the look of the shield, but that is an option. We also get 2 blades done in royal blue. These can fit in her hand, so you can get them pegged in here. And by the way, she doesn't come with the gripping hands. You do have to swap the hands out of box, but you get those in there. It's kind of a tight fit actually, but you can get in there. Or if you prefer, there's a little slot on the forearm and a little peg on this, so you can have that. That's pretty cool. We get a bunch of alternate hands. So we get these open expressive hands. So you can just pop it off the ball joint, put on the new hand, and you can do that. We also get this kind of clawing hand. And you can put those in as well. You know, meant to be like a expressive hand. And we also get just fisted hands. I'm not going to put them on there, but just in a fist with no grip in it. I find no use for hands like that. I'm not going to put those in. We also get a bunch of faces. So the one on her is just kind of a straight face. And to get it off, you just pull down up on the bottom of the chin. And then we can swap for a different face. We get this smiling, kind of smirking face. We get this one like an O face, surprise face, maybe. And then we get kind of another O face, but less surprised, I guess. And then we get this flesh-colored face. I'm not a big fan of it, but it does have painted lips. And we get the same basic expressions with this one as well. You get the open surprise face. You get a smiling flesh-colored face. And we get a laughing face. So a lot of options here. 8 different faces. Me personally, I prefer the gray ones, but you do have this option if you like. And one other accessory I kind of forgot to mention is the backpack itself. So you can display her without the backpack. And again, there goes the butt pad again. But it does have some sculpted and painted detail back here. And it does look really good. But if you prefer, the look without the backpack, you can have her like that. This has a ton of articulation, which I also forgot to mention. These can move in and out. The wings themselves can fold in and out. They can rotate. These guns on a hinge, they can rotate in and out, up and down. Unfortunately, she can't really hold these like a gun. There is a peg here, but it doesn't really fit. And it does have nice metallic red on the top here for these pylons, which is, more iconic for Starscream. And the last accessory is this flight stand done in a translucent black plastic. Has a hinge here at the bottom, at the middle. You can rotate at that middle, and then it has a hinge at the top. It's on pins, so you can't tighten it if it's loose. It's kind of fixed. But if you come to her backpack here, I found it odd. There's nothing like down here, but if you come to the inside and her butt pad fell out, I'm just going to leave it out. There is a peg slot right there, so you can plug this into there. And now you can have her on that stand. I'm not loving, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't love that spot for the flight stand. It just feels like it's kind of in the way, like it's between her body and the jetpack. But you can get into some poses using this. And for some size comparisons, there it is next to the Magic Square version of Optimus Prime and the Takara version of Nightbird Shadow, and you can see that she comes in definitely shorter than Optimus, but taller than Nightbird. So probably bigger than a lot of the fembots that you might have in the Masterpiece scale, but still smaller. So it works, it works in a Masterpiece collection. All right, now let's get Starqueen transformed into jet mode. And there are some involved steps on it, and you can transform it with the backpack on there, all in one piece. But I'm going to show you an easier way to transform it with the backpack separated. So that'll be the first step. Go ahead, lift up the backpack, separate it off of this peg. If her butt pads fall off during this transformation process, I'm just going to leave them off. But we'll start at the top here. So come to the head, rotate to the side, open up this shoulder pad. Then you can unpeg the chest from the center here, rotate it the other way, and then open up the other side, unpeg it from here. All right, once we have these shoulder pads and chest pieces out of the way, you can rotate the head back, lift up on this nose cone piece, the center of the chest, extend it out all the way. And then we'll rotate this entire neck piece, so not the head itself, but the neck piece. All right, then we'll take the head and we're going to open up the back of her head. So it'll leave, basically a little gap here on the sides. There's a slot right there. And what you're going to end up doing is plugging the arm into there. So you're going to rotate the arms so we get that slot on the side. Lift up the shoulder pad, lift up the arm. Then rotate at the shoulder, and then lift up the entire shoulder. The tab on the inside will peg into the side of the head. And then for the arm itself, this will just accordion in and sit like this. The hand can sit flat like that. All right, same on this side. Bring these chest pieces out to the side. Just leave those there for now. And leave these open. Come to the back. We can lift up on this butt plate. This will come up and sit right there. I'm shocked that this hasn't fallen out yet, so that's great. So we're getting pretty close. This will have to get fed through once we attach the backpack, but a couple more steps here on the legs before we move over to the backpack. We'll come to here, lift out on the hip. You're actually just going to have it just slightly to the side on this hinge right here. Not all the way out like that, but just a little bit out on there. That'll give you clearance to open up this hip piece on the side. Once you do that, you can open up this hip piece on the top, flip out the landing gear, and this is all done just to get this landing gear out. Then you'll put this back in, just peg right back in. This will stay down here. Come to the bottom of the leg. You're going to push this tail piece through, flip it around, flip this blue piece around, and that'll end up sitting like that. For the foot, you're going to fold in on this heel piece, fold up you should just fold all the way. And I think I forgot to mention that this heel piece even existed before. And that's one leg configured. All right, so go ahead and do the other leg. I'll do it off camera and be right back. All right, now that we got both legs and the arms configured, we can move on to the backpack. So just set this aside for a second, and now we'll work on this. So for this one, you can unpeg this from here. Come to the bottom, we'll pull out on this piece, which is tabbed in right here, and just straighten this out all the way. We can bend down here at this joint and leave that there. Open up this backpack section, And in here is this piece here, so this is going to push through, rotate it to the side, straighten up this panel, and straighten up that panel. And then while that's bent to the side, come to here, you're going to slide or lift this up. And then this is on a ball joint, so you can just push it to the side. Come to the bottom here. We're going to fold out this little orange piece in here. I found this to be a very strange step, but that's how it works. So rotate that back. Same on this side. Push this orange piece to this side now, and then rotate this, and then rotate this around, and make sure it's clearing, but should go past that and end up back here. Then you can recenter this. You can recenter this, push this forward, and that'll just plug in right there into the front. Come to the bottom here, we're going to extend these pieces of the cockpit. Extend this one as well. And once you have these open, just leave this like this, because we're going to end up putting the arms right in here in that section. Rotate this entire thing so it ends up like this. Leave this open because we have to feed the cockpit piece through. These will turn to the side, these red pieces, just rotate them. For the null race, just move those over. We're going to rotate this wing piece. Move this out of the way. Rotate the wing piece 180 degrees. On the inside here, open up this little engine piece or whatever it is and fold out this piece. For the gun, we're going to fold this back. Open up this little null right piece, flip this around, close that back up, flip this panel down, open up this panel right here, straighten up this panel, bring this all the way around and rotate it in, and then bring this down, and that'll just fill in right there. This will come down right here to get it attached onto the wing. Right, so it should end up looking something like this. Leave this open. And then go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I'll do that off camera. But all right, here's how we're looking after configuring both wing pieces. And I believe there's a way to have this be a jet on its own. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to get this attached. So get this reattached to the back, right where it was before. No change there. This panel will sit on top. Just leave this up like this. We'll start on the front here. So the arms will fit into here, and make sure they're collapsed down. This will feed through to the other side. So just feed it through the slot here. And then line up the arms and get this around the arm section. And once you get that around, you can peg this back in up here. Peg it in down there. Bring this panel in, and then bring this panel in and lock that together. Give that a little squeeze. And then on the front here, bring that down. On the top, make sure this is pushed all the way down. This will come in and just fit right between the rear orange pieces and the front orange pieces. And then you'll take this piece and close that up on the back. And there's your cockpit. All right, now we'll take care of the back section. So back here, we want to fold up the legs. And you can just lift this up to give it yourself a little room. But fold up the feet. So you have this And the feet will end up sitting right here, and we did lose our butt plate. I'm just going to leave that off. But this will end up sitting right here. So on this one, fold this back, and this will end up sitting right here. And there is kind of like a fine line between the right angle and the wrong angle of this. It should look something like that. When we try to plug in the boosters later, you'll see that you can tell the exact angle that you need it at. But for now, that's about where you need it. Bring this down. Bring this panel between here. And you should have the legs kind of along the side of this panel. On the inside here, we're going to fold these back in at this joint right here. See on this one, fold this back in on this joint here. You're not going to fold it all the way in, just on the outside. So it ends up sitting right there. Then you'll bring these in. You can see there's a little slot now for this to fit. So this will come down. And there's a double hinge. So fold up the double hinge and then fold this down and in. There's a slot right here on the top of the red metallic piece that's going to plug in right there. So bring this all the way down. And it'll fit over this, what is now her elbows. Make sure those are pushed in all the way. I didn't have it pushed in all the way. Yeah, so bring this down. This will fit over and plug in right there. All right, so here's how we should be looking after you get both wings and legs configured. I just wanted to show you this panel here should be on the outside of the legs. So then you bring this over. It'll tab in right here. It fills in the gap and kind of covers up the leg right there. All right, same on this side. Bring this over, tab that in. These you can kind of do whatever you want, but back here, make sure you have it bent at this hinge right there. There are two pegs on the back of the knees, and there's two slots on the boosters. So those will tab in to the back of the knees. That's an interesting transformation step. And this is where I mentioned earlier, if you don't have something right, this is where you'll find that, you know, something's off. And it looks like I've got one of the legs is just off by a hair. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments. But ultimately, this is what you want. You want this to plug in back here on both boosters. All right. So last step, come to the bottom here. And this is another one. If you haven't gotten things configured correctly, it'll be tough. But open up this. Open up that. Come to the bottom. These two will go into these slots, and then the peg will go into the center. And I'm betting that it doesn't. Oh yeah, right. So I did it right. That all pegs in there. And on the front here, we can open up this little panel, fold out the landing gear, and then reclose. All right, and there's Star Queen in jet mode. And I'm kind of impressed. You know, for a fembot, I was expecting it to look kind of meh and kibbly, but it actually looks pretty good. Fully painted, still, you got the cockpit. You do get a replacement cockpit piece here in case you have a problem, but it looks nice. Metallic red here. I like how the shoulder bits and the shoulder pads came together to make this red part down here. Pretty clean overall. I like how the shield covers up here. There's a little bit of gap here, but it's fine. Overall, pretty impressive. It does have the wheels on the landing gear that actually roll. So it can roll. Boosters back here. You can kind of configure these however you want. But yeah, overall pretty cool looking. You can configure these differently too if you want, but this is the configuration with the shorter guns. And I do with the option for a little bit of weapon storage. You can take these swords, a little slot right there on the inside of the thighs or the legs, and you can tab this into here. And we can put one on the other side as well. And we can, of course, use the flight stand in jet mode here. First thing I want to mention, there is a storage compartment here. So if you open this up, you can put all the parts in there, including the swords and everything. And then there's a peg here. So we can come to the bottom. There's a little slot right there in the shield. If you don't have the shield on there, there's a slot below the shield. But you can get this on here. And now you got pretty nice flight stand for the jet mode. For size comparison, there it is next to the MP10 Optimus Prime down in the MP44 colors, and you see it's a smaller jet, and for another comparison, there it is next to MP52 Starscream, and you can see it's smaller lengthwise, height-wise, and width-wise, although the wingspan is probably about the same, but the fuselage is a little bit smaller. So again, nicely emulates a female version of Starscream in the alt mode. So final recommendations on the Collection Space Star Queen. This is a pretty cool figure. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I'll recommend it. I do think it's very, very well articulated, and the posability is pretty out of this world. I got into this pose pretty easily. I'm not the greatest of posers, so it's pretty well done. I like the jetpack. I like some of the accessories and the way you can configure it. There's a lot of options. The jet mode is okay. It's not the most convincing thing, but I mean, any of these fembots where they do transformations like this, it's to be expected that they're not going to be amazing, but they're good. It's good enough. Nice accessories overall. Nice paint job. That was kind of a surprise. It's fully painted, really painted well. So I have to imagine this isn't Collection Space's first rodeo. They've done other figures under a different name, which makes sense. So if you're into female bots of this kind, then I think you'll enjoy this. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Augie G, and we'll see you next time.